All right, what's up, everyone? It's Matt Mrozik, and this will be the third work in progress on vending pool Venom. So yesterday we got the majority of the final prep done. Today I put a coat of primer on it, and it looks really good. I missed a few spots just because I sprayed them on the base. So when I paint and prime again, I have to make sure I maybe flip them upside down, prime it, put them back on the base, and then prime again, because I just missed some spots underneath here. He barely fits in my spray booth, but he does fit. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through and just kind of sand out a few little areas that I see need a little bit of work. I found some air bubbles, mainly here in the Spider-Man emblem right there. I'm going to fill those with some spot putty. Overall, it looks really good. My joints look good. Everything looks like they blended pretty well. What else did I see yesterday? The air bubbles are the big one. There's a little bit of a mold line here I missed on the jaw. I'm going to sand that down a little bit, real lightly. Let's see, anything on the back here. So I can put this down without breaking any nails. On the back, I'm not sure if you guys can see it. I've got a little bit of resin sludge in there and down there, so I'll get after that with a Dremel just to get that out. Like I said, I want to kind of smooth this out a little bit. It's not going to match this perfectly, but it's going to at least have some texture. I'm going to sand this down a little bit because it's a little rough. Hopefully by the time it's all painted, it won't be too noticeable. Let's see, what else did I see? I think those are the major things. Sanding that little area down on the butt, the air bubbles, some of this resin sludge. There's an air bubble here I see. Yeah, so let's do the air bubbles. I'll show you how I do it on like one or two. I'll do the rest off camera because I have to manhandle this thing, and it's huge. So there's a couple ways you can do this, and the thing we can do it, so using spot putty. I think we can use just a little bit of Bondo so it'll dry quicker. I don't know, maybe I'll do spot putty. So typically what you want to do is you want to, so you guys can see it. So the major bubbles in this guy are right here, 1, 2, 3, 4. And typically what you want to do is you want to kind of drill them out a little bit. Like that. You want to drill them out, you want to make sure you can get putty in there. You know, I could do that with the Aves. I'll do that with Aves, I think. Because I can paint over while it's drying. Because today's goal is to get all the rest of the little nitpicky stuff done, and then maybe get the white sprayed on the emblem and the hands. Excuse me. And maybe the eyes, and get some paint down today. And then what I think I'll do after that is I'll do the mouth, and then mask all that off, and then do the black. So what my client asked for is basically the kind of same black I did on the Miles Morales character, which is relatively simple, but there's a lot of texture in this thing. So he'll get base coated in black. I'll highlight all the muscles and the veins in a midnight blue, and then I will knock that back down with some more transparent black, and then so all the muscles will be defined and everything. I've seen this painted up a couple different ways. I've seen it done all in black. I've seen it where they go in and they paint all these little skin textures blue. That to me looks a little busy, so I'm going to really just highlight the muscles and the textures with the blue highlights and kind of bring in all the details of the sculpt. So yeah, so we got a couple bubbles there. And the great thing about Aves, especially these my older Aves, you can paint on a wall that's drying. I've done it before. So I'm going to mix up a little bit. And it's just like before, we mix up 2 equal amounts. Because I don't need a whole lot of this. Let's get down closer. I don't want to do just have this guy fall off my workbench. So you can see those little white spots. That's where I just drilled out the air bubbles. So I'll do like 1 or 2 here on camera, and then I'll go around and fix the other ones. And then I'll get out those areas of resin sludge with my Dremel. And that's just from the molding and casting process. Sometimes you get little spots of resin in areas you don't want. But I'm really happy with how all my joints look. Really happy. I was concerned I have to go back in and do some more work on them, but I took the time when I first did them to try getting them to blend as good as I could, and I think I did a good job. So I'm really happy with those. Like I said, if you hadn't seen this piece cut up into multiple pieces, you won't be able to tell where it was cut. So that's the whole goal when you're doing that kind of thing. Okay. And then let me get my tools out here. All right, so I got this mixed up. You don't need you need very little bit of this eggs. I'm gonna fill this hole right here. I'm sure I'm gonna focus that close. All right, so I got just a okay. Just pack it in there. Just like that. And just kind of sculpt it to fit the shape. There you go. Just like that. Do this little one right here. And pack it in. Take off the excess. Just like that. And if I want to smooth it out a little bit, you can actually use water on this too. Let's see, I should have some water somewhere. I'm just going to take a Q-tip, slightly damp. Smooth it out a little bit. So that's kind of the gist of it. Go in there and fill these in, smooth it out. We'll see if we get some paint on this today. I don't know It depends on how much of all this little tedious stuff I got to do. See if I get any paint on today. I'm not going to rush it. So paint, I think is going to take. I think paint's going to take 2 or 3 days. My initial thought is with the white, all the white parts for 1 day, and then the mouth. I could probably get the mouth and the black done in a day, and the base will take a day. So this one, I actually had to sculpt a little bit of the Spider-Man pattern out a little bit because the bubble knocked it off. So I just kind of recreate that shape a little bit there. Just blend it out. Pretty good bubble right here. You can drill it out to clean out. Just to clean it out. This is why it's hard to do this on camera, because I need to be able to see what I'm doing. Sometimes my hands get in the way. Just put a little water in my tool here. I'm not using thinner because I got this in primer, and I don't want to mess up the primer because it's actually a really nice coat. So I'm just using some water to shape this. Before, when I was doing the joints, I was using thinner because it just softens it up a little bit more. There you go. Just like that. So right there we got those major bubbles filled. Put a little bit more on this one. Here we go. Okay, so that's how we do bubbles. So I'm gonna go around and take care of all the bubbles that I find, and then we'll come back. Alrighty, so I went through and fixed the bubbles and anything else I saw, and threw some primer on it. Let it sit for about an hour. So now we're gonna go in and start spraying some paint. I nicked the top of the head here in the booth, so I'll have to just hit that with some spot primer before I paint the black later. But so right now I'm gonna go in and I'm going to do the white on the spider emblems, the back of the hands and the eyes and stuff. So first I'm gonna do is I'm gonna base coat this in some white. I'm gonna turn my spray booth on. And for that, I'm going to use my Mr. Color White. And I'm going to spray it out here in my work area, as long as I keep the air pressure down low. It's not going to create too much. 1 second. I got an air leak I gotta deal with. And an air leak I had to go deal with real quick. Okay, so I'm not sure how much I'll be able to show on this process because again, this guy's just big and honking. So I need another thing. I'll be right back. I'm actually gonna do first. I'm actually going there with some white Badger Stowres first. Primer. That way I don't use as much white paint. So. Crank up my air pressure here a little bit. I'm not sure how much you'll be able to see this. Maybe I bring the camera on the other side, but I'm right-handed, so I'm not sure if you'll be able to see what I'm doing. Let's see. Let's try it this way. So put a nice coat of this on. I see a little air bubbles. Now I'm seeing some more air bubbles that I just have to go back and do a quick fix on. It's real hard to get paint in some of these areas. There's a one coat on that emblem, and I'm seeing 1, 2, 3. I'm seeing a few little air bubbles that are bugging me. I'm not going to be able to get them all out, but I want to get the ones that are really obvious. So I'm going to let that dry for a little bit, and I can fill those in. While it's drying, I can put the pads on the hands. Okay. That, and then I can base coat the eyes. And I'll have to let this dry for a little while before I flip them over and do the back emblem. Primer. Make sure you can see what I'm doing. Oh, there you go. I can see them. There's some very subtle details sculpting in the eyes. I'll have some shading for. See if I get down in here a little better, flipping them upside down. And this will be one of the few cases where I'll use Silly Putty as my main masking, because the texture on this sculpt is so rough that masking tape wouldn't stick really well. So I'll Silly Putty this off when I'm done with it, and then just touch up the edges with black. Okay. Okay, so I got the eyes base coated, the front emblem base coated, and the back of the hands. I'll let this dry for about 15 minutes. I'll flip it over and then base coat the back emblem. Okay, so we got those base coated in white, dried for a little bit. Now we go in and do some shading, and I've changed my mind what I was going to do for shading. How I was going to do the shading. I'm going to use my GarageKits.us colors. We're going to shade, and then we're going to go back in and kind of blend it all in again with some transparent white. So this is a warm gray number 7. It's pretty dark, but that's okay. And it's gonna be tricky because I gotta be able to get in here and maybe show you what I'm doing. I'm just gonna go in here. Air pressure's a little high. I have to crank up the air pressure for the styrene res to go through the brush. Well, where's the mirrors? Knock that down a little bit. And it's gonna be dark at first, but we're gonna go back in and blend this in with some white. Problem is I can't get my hand in there to work the airbrush. I'm not sure. Excuse me. I'm not sure much about the shows on camera because I just can't work the camera, get in there, and all that stuff. So I think you get the idea. I'm gonna go and shade it, and I'll come back and look at it. I just can't do it while I'm recording. Okay, so I got the shading done on both emblems and the backs of the hands, and I can probably show you a little easier what I'm gonna do on the back emblems. It's easier to get to. So now we're gonna do. You can see how we're gonna hit all the muscles and also kind of outline the emblem and that semi-transparent number 7. Now I'm gonna go with semi-transparent pure white, and I'm gonna hit the highlights and then blend it all in, and we'll knock this down. So put some airbrush. And first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna hit the high spots. Again, I'm not gonna be able to show much painting on camera because I can't hold this and get where I gotta get when I'm recording. So I just want to give you the idea of what I'm doing. So I went and outlined it here, like especially on these little spider arms, and I try to go right down the middle of them to soften that shading up a little bit. With these being semi-transparent, you'll see everything underneath, all the different layers. Whenever I take my airbrush off the sun, and I pull the triggers because I'm trying to release the dry tip I got on the airbrush. And then I can come in here and start misting this on. And this will take several coats because it dries down as it dries down, it gets darker. Starting to blend together nicely. And if I need a little brighter spot, I'll just get the highlights again with this a little more pinpointed. That's pretty much kind of it. So I'll go do the other areas and we'll come back and I'll look at this and see how it looks. And if it looks good, I'll leave it. If I need to add a little more white, I'll add more white. Because as it dries, it gets darker. But shading's looking pretty good. Okay, and here's the front emblem all blended in. Let me see if I can bring this exposure down a little bit. We can see the shading a little bit better. And it looks looking pretty good. So let's flip it over because I did the hands. And let's see if the back needs a little bit more shading. So it's a chance to dry down a little bit, a couple minutes. And I think we're gonna blend this in just a little bit more. Just kind of mist over it again. Got messed up on my camera here. And I gotta hit the highlights a little bit more on the muscles. I think that's looking pretty good. Yeah, nice and natural. Okay, I'm gonna call the back emblem done. Once this dries for a little bit, I'll seal all this with some Krylon matte. And let's look at the back of the hands. See the shading there, looks pretty good. I think we're gonna leave that alone. Let's look at the other one. I think that's looking pretty good. Maybe just a little bit hair brighter overall. I'm just gonna back off. Oh, that was. Am I out of paint? I am. Back off just a hair and just a little bit more on. That's about it. Double check the other hand, make sure it looks consistent. I think that looks maybe just a hair more. Like that. And then let's look at the front emblem again. You're probably not seeing the shading a whole lot in camera, but it's there, it looks pretty good. It's such a challenge to paint something with one big piece. Getting a few of these high spots again. Especially down here in the armpits. It's really hard to get paint down there. We're going to do our best. We got the white done today. It's pretty good. And then tomorrow, depending on, I got soccer games for my son, so I may not be able to get painting done tomorrow or this weekend. We got plans. So then the next thing would be the mouth after I do this. Okay, I think this is looking pretty good. I think I need to put them on the base. To do the eyes. So I'm gonna go get that out of the spray booth. I'll be right back. So one thing I'm gonna have to do, which I've already done a little bit, is I'm gonna have to sand the inside of these keys because it's such a good fit that I can't get them on the base all the way, especially when I start getting paint on here. So I'm gonna have to sand the keys down a little bit so it'll actually get on the base. I sanded them down a little bit earlier, but I guess I didn't do it enough. I've even thought about just making it one piece, permanently attaching them to the base and shipping them that way. I probably could and be okay. That might be an option. So I don't see why I couldn't do that. That actually might help keep the legs from, I think I may do that, and then I may glue them to the base and make it one piece, because that way it keeps, maybe if in shipping wise, if this gets bumped this way or something, it'll keep the legs from breaking. So I may do that. But anyway, he's on the base now. Super tight fit. And we're going to go in and detail these eyes a little bit. I'm not going to use such a dark color to do this. And I may do it with a cool gray, instead of a warm gray. So let's go in with the cool number. Let's see what number 5 looks like. Again, not sure how much of this I'll show you on camera, so I gotta be able to get in there and paint. At least with them on the base, I can. Might not be dark enough. Yeah, I think I want a darker one. Actually, I don't know if I like the cool. Let's go with the warm. Warm number 6. I'm going to use a different airbrush that can lock in my needle a little bit better. Okay, so this is a warm number 6. And outline the eyes first.
take the needle guard off and get dry tip pretty easily on this. I'm not sure. Again, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do a whole lot of this on camera. Okay. That's one reason I'm not a fan of doing the videos too much, but it's hard for me to work. Not sure if you can see any of what I'm doing. Especially with that light right there, but I gotta have light to see what I'm doing. It's more important that I see what I'm doing than what you see what I'm doing. So right now I'm just outlining the eyes with this. And I'm going to go in and hit some of these little sculpted details. And then we'll knock it all back again with transparent white. Okay. So let's see if you guys can see that. That should look pretty good. You can see the outline pretty good. Okay. So now there's some very subtle little details in here. I get to spray. Get that a little thinner. I'm still creating some, just kind of creating some patterns in here, just so it's not solid, and then once I bury it, it'll look really good. Dry tip is killing me. Just created some squigglies in there, and then it looks stupid now, but once I bury it, it'll look good. Do the same thing over here. Kind of saw this on a sideshow video that was just posted a little while ago. They just add some of these kind of little organic shapes in the eyes and look really good. So I'm kind of copying that. Why not, right? Let me hit the outline again. Soften it up a little bit. Okay. Now we're going to go in with some white and bury it. Clean out the airbrush a little bit. Yeah, semi-transparent white, back in the airbrush, back off, concentrate in the middle. A little bit on each side, just building it up. Start painting it on. like something. I'm gonna go back and hit the edges again when I'm done with this. So I'm gonna finish this up and then we'll take a look at it when it's done. All right, my battery's almost dead, so we're gonna see what else we can do. So I just sealed all that stuff with some flat, let it dry for a few minutes. I'm gonna go to the eyes one more time with some pastels. I was having a real hard time getting the look I want, so I got some pastels. This is called Metal Slag. It's a brownish tone. And I just want to kind of hit the recesses a little bit more. And I think I get a better, a little more accurate look doing it this way. This will add a little warmth to it also. And the problem is I have a hard time seeing what I'm doing. Trying to get light where I need it. Yeah, it's looking good now. Yeah, it's looking good now. You guys can't see what I'm doing, but I'm just going in along the edges with this Metal Slag pastel. Just a clean Q-tip. It's not coming off where I want it to. Now I may have to go back in here and hit with some white again. Just really struggling getting paint where I wanted it. So I'm going to do this, see what it looks like. I may have to go back in with some white again. So I got to do this off camera because I can't see what the hell I'm doing while I'm recording. Okay, so quite a bit got done since the last time I was recording. I just have a hard time painting this thing and trying to record at the same time. It's just so massive. So I got the white done on the emblem, the patches on the hands. I did the eyes, gloss coated the eyes about, I don't know, 6 or 7 hours ago. They've dried enough so I can silly putty everything. So I silly puttied the emblems, the back of the hands, and the eyes. And now I'm going to work on the mouth. So for this, I'm going to base coat this like in a purplish, reddish tone. And then we're going to do some washes and dry brushing and stuff and go from there. So I'm just going to mix up kind of this custom color. Got some purple and some red. I got this purplish tone going on right now. Put a little more red in there, I think. This is transparent red number 2. It's a darker red. There we go. So again, I'm not sure how much of this I'll be able to show on camera. I think I'll be able to move around. And get light to everything. So the reason I masked everything off is so I can really concentrate on painting and not worry about getting oversprayed on areas I don't want. Let me put this lid on. Maybe a little dark, but I'll bring it up. A little more purple than I wanted. Maybe after this, I'll just go back over with some red. And we'll have to turn this guy upside down eventually to get top side of the mouth. A hair stick somewhere. And base cut the tongue too. That's a little purple for now. That's all right. Put some serious hours in on this guy in the past few days. It's been a fun project. I get going on something I really enjoy. I tend to just work. So I'm going to continue base coating everything because I have to be able to move this guy, flip him around and all that stuff. So I'm going to continue base coating the mouth and this purple, and then we'll come back and we'll show you what we're going to do next. Okay, what I've decided to kind of show you is what I'm doing on the tongue, and then worry about the rest off camera because I just can't maneuver them. So what I've done is I'm going back over the purple with just some of this transparent red to shift the color a little bit. Hold on. So this is transparent red, blood red number 2. And just to take some of the purple down. Shifted this a little bit. That's a really deep red. And I'm going to let this dry for a little bit, and then I'm going to go seal this, I think. Then I'm going to start doing some dry brushing. Bring it up, and then do some washes. I got this kind of really cool, slick looking tongue. I'm going to check this against the inside of the mouth and see how it looks. And if it matches, we'll seal both of those and dry for a little bit. Okay, so I sealed those with some Krylon flat, and I hit them with the hair dryer. So again, I'm just going to show you on the tongue what we're going to do. I'm going to dry brush some highlights on this now. And for that, we're going to get, let me see what I got. Frozen flesh. some flesh color. Hey, I'm recording. Little flesh tone. Sorry, people walk in and the whole place explodes. Let's see, I need a brush. Okay, where's the tongue? Where do the tongue? There it is. Okay, so I've got this warm bisque. And we're going to dry brush this on a little bit. I'm going to do this to the inside of the mouth also. And we're going to go back to red eventually, but so again, I spent a lot of time on just the undertones. And I may bring this up to white too. That way when I do my red wash, it's where I want it. Yeah, this is looking good. I really wish my workroom was enclosed. It's not. It's open to the house, so you guys can. Someone walks in, the dogs freak out. Kids are loud. Bring their friends over. It's really hard to record. Okay, so this is looking pretty good. So I'm going to do this to the inside of the mouth, and again, I won't be able to record it because I got to be able to flip them upside down and everything. But while I'm here, let's go ahead and bring this up one more level. Some white. If I can find it. Of course, it's never. There it is, titanium white. So I'm going to get this up one more level. Actually, I'll mix some of the flesh in with the white. I'd like to get the gums and teeth done tonight, or the gums and the tongue. That way I can seal them up and let them dry overnight really well. The teeth will take a very long time. So here I'm going to kind of really hit the high spots. Okay, so I kind of got this look going on. So I'm going to do this to the inside of the mouth and then seal those, and then we'll come back. All right. So I went and sealed those again. Now I'm going to go in and do a red wash. Just got some Deco Art Dark Scarlet, watered down pretty good. And this will bring this down. And then we'll go back and do some more dry brushing and stuff. Let's see what this does. This could work. It could look like complete crap. I don't know. We'll find out here in a second. So I'll put this on like so. And then we're going to get a paper towel and kind of dab it off. Oops. So hopefully this will stain everything. More towards the red spectrum. Yeah, good. Do that again one more time, and then we'll seal it again, and we'll go back and do some more dry brushing, and then we'll see what it looks like. So I'll do the same step here I'm doing on the, right here in the mouth. I'll do it twice, kind of dab it off, dry it. Looks really good. So that's kind of the red I want to go for. A little bit. So that looks really good. So I'm going to do the same thing in the mouth, and then we'll go back and dry brush more highlights on and see what we look like. All right, so I've done a lot of work since I recorded anything. Basically, I got the mouth done. I didn't record doing the teeth yesterday because, again, he's just so hard to handle, and the teeth took me all day. It took me a full day to do it. So I came back from our Thanksgiving trip that we take every year, and I spent all day Monday just doing the teeth. I will tell you that on the teeth, what I did is I did them mostly in oils. So here's my my palette of colors I used. So I think I showed the gums and like the inside of the mouth. And then I used oils to kind of do the teeth and the gum line. And so I used like a really dark brown, kind of a dark red, a burnt sienna, some white, some yellow, and you'll see them after I take the silly putty off later, but that's what I used to do the teeth. So now what we're gonna do is I base coated the statue in black Stynylrez. I gave it 3 good coats to make sure I got coverage everywhere. It's dried for about an hour and a half. And now we're gonna go and add highlights. So my client really liked the black I did on the Spider-Man I just did recently. So we're gonna do the same steps here. So he's in black. I'm gonna go in and highlight everything with Mr. Color GX Suzy Blue, and then blend it all, and then knock it back with misting on some black on top. Now, the base is interesting because from what I can tell in the photos I've seen, the base is just symbiote kind of overflowing on the skulls and stuff. So I don't see any rock. So I think we're just gonna paint this as if it's symbiote. Now, I don't want to really match him too much, so what I'll probably do is maybe, I don't know, we'll get there when I get there, but I'm gonna blend it in somehow. But it's basically like the symbiote's flowing over off of him and over all these skulls. Now the skulls will be painted black on the base, but right now we're gonna kind of work on his skin. And again, I only show a little bit of this on camera because I gotta be able to move them and flip them upside down and all that stuff, and it's a major pain in the ass. So, and I think I mentioned in a previous video, I think I'll probably end up just attaching him to the base permanently, making him one piece because he's actually really easy to pick up and the base sticks to his feet. I made the fit so tight on the feet that when you pick him up, the base doesn't come off. So it's kind of hard to get him off the base right now. So I'm gonna mix some of this blue up. And again, I'm just gonna, I really don't have a real thinning ratio for this stuff. It's basically like a 2-to-1 ratio. 2 parts thinner, 1 part paint. Then we're gonna mix this up here. This step will take me a long time. There's a lot of details on this thing. I've seen this done a couple ways. I've seen it where they go in and they highlight all the little wrinkles individually. I think I'm gonna go with more of the comic style where the muscles are highlighted because you're gonna see all that texture anyway. So I'm gonna go with more of the comic style, I think. Okay. Sorry, I'm just cleaning out my brush that I used to mix that paint up with. So I'll put this in my airbrush. It's got spraying. All right, so we'll do a little bit maybe here on the hand, on camera. Again, I'm just gonna do a very little bit of this on camera because I gotta be able to move them. So basically I'm just gonna go in and highlight all the muscles and stuff. So I'm gonna come in here. The veins. Anywhere there's a raised spot, we're gonna hit this. And then once that's all done, I can go in and accentuate the muscles a little more by adding some shadow.
softer shape. I just did it a little lighter. I did send photos of the teeth to my client yesterday. He liked them, so I'm glad because they did take me all damn day to do the teeth. Another thing is I gotta be able to move my lights around to see what I'm doing. Not sure if you're seeing that. So again, I'm just gonna do a little bit of this on camera. Pretty tight line right there. This will take me several hours to do this. I think you get the idea here. There's a lot of use on this piece, a lot of great muscle detail. So I'm gonna keep doing this, and when I'm done, I'll let you know how long it took and what it looks like in the end. All right, so here he is all highlighted with the blue. I did the base too. So now I'm gonna do, I've got some Mr. Color GX black in my airbrush. I got it over thin, so it should be semi-transparent. And now I'm gonna go back in. I'm gonna bring back some of the muscles, because when I do this, the overspray kind of gets kind of into some areas I don't want. So I'm just gonna go in here, just real lightly, bring back some of the muscle definition, and then I'm gonna mist this on everything to knock it all down. So I'll do the mist. I'll do this part out here. And I'll have to do the other part in the spray booth, because I want to get a bigger airbrush, and I want to really just fan it on, and it creates a lot of overspray when I do that. So right now I'm just going real lightly with this black to bring back some of the muscle definition that I lost from doing the highlighting. I think I can give you a good example of what I'm doing, maybe here on the rear end. Just doing super light. And everything to black so I can still see through it.
That's what we're gonna do here. And then I'll mist the black on after I do this, and then I'll should tie it all together, and we'll come back and look at it after I'm doing that. Okay, so I sent photos to my client of the black, and he loves it. So I went ahead and took the silly putty off, the emblem, and the mouth, and I still have to take off the back of the hands. So now we're gonna do, and I won't do this on camera because it's hard. I can't do what I need to do while he's on the base. I have to put him in my lap and move him around. I need to go through with black and just touch up all these edges around the emblem, both emblems and the hands. So that'll take me a little while, but I'm just gonna go with my craft paint, just my black craft paint and a small brush, and just touch up all the edges from the silly putty, which I knew I was gonna have to do anyway. So once I do that, I'll seal them again with matte, excuse me, and then I'll paint the fingernails. And then I'll do that. I'll show you the fingernails on camera. So right now I'm gonna go through and touch up all the edges, but this is looking really, really sharp. Really digging it. So nice contrast between the white and the black and blue highlights. So it's looking good. So when I'm done with the touching up, we'll do the fingernails, and I'll show you that process on camera. Okay, so I went and gone, and I'll show you something real quick. What's really nice about these craft paints. So I went around, I touched up all the edges on the front emblem, on the hands and the back emblem. So what I do is if I mess up somewhere in painting, I don't touch it until it's absolutely dry, because what you can do, and this is a nice trick, after you have to make sure that the piece is sealed really well before you do this. I just take a toothpick, just a plain old toothpick, and I go around and I look for little areas that may have messed up a little bit. So I try to show you one. I think I already cleaned up the front one pretty good. Like right here. There's a little error right here. It's very small, but it bugs me. And all I do is I just go on my Q-tip and I just scrape it right off, and it comes right off. So you just use the Q-tip because it's not sharp. It's not going to go through the paint below that, and you can just scrape off any mistakes. Here's another one over here, real small. So this is how I go in and I tidy up any little mistakes on the edges. I just go in and just scrape it off, and it will continue to scrape off until I seal it. So I make sure I got all the little mess ups fixed before I seal this. Like here's one right here. I'm not sure if you guys can see it. The lighting's not very good because I'm in my lab. But like right here's a little, it's not real consistent. So I'm just going in there and scrape it off. But you have to let this paint dry completely, and it only takes about 10 or 15 minutes to dry completely. But if you do this before you seal it, it's really easy to kind of fix any mistakes. And if I scrape off a little too much, I just go back and repaint that spot. But I'm just careful. I go slow. I can tidy these lines up really, really easily. There's a good example on one of the back of the hands. Let me see if I can get it in frame. Okay, right here. So right here I messed up a little bit. It's not completely straight. So I can go in there and just scrape it off. Just like that. It cleans up that line perfectly. And here's another little. This is when I get down to the real nitpicky stuff. So that's cleaned up. That's ready to seal. Let's see, I did the back. It still may be drying. Let's see. Bring down the exposure a little bit. Did I go the wrong way? I think it did. Okay, so like right here's a little. And they're really small. Usually they're kind of little small areas that I messed up. Here's a good example right here. Not sure if you can see it. Just scrape it off. Same here. If you try to do this while the paint's still wet, you'll just smear it. So that's why I let it dry completely. And it's harder to remove once it's been smeared. So this process doesn't take too long. It's just nitpicky, you know. But this is where I can go in and really make sure everything's pretty tightened up. Now this sculpt was a little hard because it's a traditional sculpt and some of these lines aren't exactly cleanly sculpted. So you kind of have to use your own discretion as far as like how tight to make these lines. So I'm just scraping those little areas off. Super easy. So all the black outline trim has been touched up except for the eyes. I'm not taking the silly putty off the eyes until I do the final flat coat of sealer on this piece, which once I clean up all these areas on the black or the black edging, we'll get the final coat of sealer. Another thing I did last night, I'm not sure if it'll show up, is once I took the silly putty off the mouth, it's gonna be upside down here, sorry. The gums and teeth look really good. Now it's against the black. I went in with some more of the oils that I used on the gums, and I just kind of did a little transition between the black and the red, just to give it so it's not such a harsh line. And you can see it here. And if there's any, the oils are still, they remain wet indefinitely, really. Especially when they don't have a surface to soak into, so I can go in and wipe up any little kind of errors, but those look pretty good. So now the teeth and gums. I also went in and added a little more highlight with some pink on these areas with the oils here and on the inside too. Not that you'll really be able to see it, but I did. So now I'm going to finish tightening up the black lines. I'll give it a final coat of flat sealer. Oh no, I got to do the nails yet. So the next step is the nails. So don't forget those. I'll show those here in a little bit. All right, moving on to the nails. So I went and sealed all the areas, the white areas, and I sealed the mouth again, and I let it dry about 30 minutes. So the first thing I'm doing on the nails, I'm going to give them a base coat of Vallejo Game Heavy Blue Gray. So that's what I got in here. And again, I'll do a little bit of this on camera because I got to be able to flip him over and move him around. But so I'm just going to go in this, paint this on straight, no thinning, and it'll cover in one coat. Actually use a bigger brush, be a little more effective. And then once I base coat these, I'll let them dry and seal them. And then we'll do some shading with pastels and some maybe dry brushing to bring out some highlights. But the first trick is to get them base coated, so I'm going to do that the rest of the way, and I'll come back after they've been sealed. Okay, so I got all the fingernails base coated in that kind of grayish blue color. Now we're going to do some shading, and we're going to do the pastels, because I think it's easier to accomplish the look I want. So come in here. I've got 3 colors. I've got black smoke. I've got graveyard dirt, so these are MIG pigments. I've got another one called metal slag. So the darkest one is dark smoke, and I'm going to start with that near the nail bed. So let's see, we're looking at this one. I'm going to come in here and really just kind of go around the nail bed with this, and I put, like if I said, I'm pretty heavy-handed with pigments. I'm going to blow off the excess. I'm going to use a soft brush to kind of bring it out a little bit. I can go back in and add more if I want. Or we're going to give them some dirty nails. Just like that. Okay. Now I think I'm going to go in with this graveyard dirt, which is kind of brown. So I really don't like the gray color. I just want that kind of as an undercoat, and we're going to just kind of blend it in to the black smoke. This is the kind of look we got. Kind of digging that. Just like that. So I'm gonna go around and do that to all of them, and then we'll seal it again. And I don't know. I may leave it. I may do some dry brushing. I don't know. But that's what the next step is. Do the shading, and then seal it, and then go from there. Alrighty. So I went and sealed those, and they got a little darker than I wanted. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to do some dry brushing. See if I can show it here. Maybe not focus that close. Let's see. Really light on what I'm doing here, maybe. Come on, focus. There we go. Okay. So I took that same blue gray and I added a little of this elfic flesh to it, just to brighten it up a little bit. So I kind of got this light, warm gray, and I put some on my brush and I take most of it off. And I'm just kind of, let's see which one, this one right here. And I'm just kind of real lightly kind of hitting the tip. And I'm going from the tip towards the nail bed. I'm just doing a little bit, I'm not doing a lot. And that's about it. That's all I'm going to do. Just to give it a little more shape. So I'm going to do that to the rest of them, seal the hands again, and then I'll take one more look over everything, and I think everything's done on him, and then I can gloss coat the mouth and the tongue. So I'll finish doing this, seal the nails one more time, I'll come back. Okay, so I just went in, I gave him the whole thing another coat of sealer, and he looks really good. So now, the next thing, the last little thing I got to do on the actual Venom, and not the base, is take the silly putty off the eyes. Now this has been on here for over a week, so hopefully everything comes out okay. Remember I did that airbrushing and then the gloss coat, and that's why the silly putty has stayed on the eyes for so long, because these eyes need to remain glossy. And until I did the last sealing, the silly putty had to stay on. So take this off and see if I have any touch-ups to do with black around the edges. So far it's looking really good. See a little spot I got to touch up. And this silly putty will just get thrown out. I won't try to save this. It's got a lot of paint on it. Yeah, so I'll go around these edges with the black paint again, just a little on these few little areas. And and then the last thing to do will be to gloss the tongue and the mouth. So the mouth, I'm going to brush on the gloss coat, and the tongue I'll spray. What I should have done, well, I know why I didn't do it. Normally what I would do is I'd get the mouth all done, painted, and then gloss coat the mouth, and then silly putty it off. But what I wanted to do was make sure I had kind of a, go in there and do that kind of gradual transition between the lip and the mouth and the gums and stuff. So that's why I didn't do that earlier. So yeah, that'll turn out really nice. Let's take out this. This is the first time we actually kind of get to see everything, all the colors working together. And I may be doing another one of these. I've got a client that I've done several projects for, and he's been watching this, and he may get a kit from Joe and have me do it.
good. Yeah, little touch-ups here and there, not too bad. The one thing I don't like about Silly Putty is the paint kind of, I don't know, you can't ever get it like paper thin, like tape thin. That's why I like tape, because you can get it super thin. I mean, it is super thin, and you don't have to go around and do all these touch-ups on the edges. The reason I use Silly Putty on the eyes is because it wasn't 100% cured, and I knew I could do Silly Putty without it affecting the clear coat. If I would have put tape on as early as I put the Silly Putty on, it would have left tape tracks in the clear coat, and I would have had to redo it. So. I'm just up here getting all the Silly Putty out of the little nooks and crannies. I think that looks pretty badass. That's pretty slick. Okay, so I'm not going to show it on camera, but I'm going to touch up these edges with the black paint, and then I will on camera show you glossing the tongue and the mouth. So that'll be the very last thing on the Venom, and then tonight I'll paint the skulls on the base, and he should be done. So if I just kind of work into the night tonight, I should have this all wrapped up tonight. But he's looking really good. So once I touch up the eyes, we'll show glossing the mouth and the tongue. All right, so I'm in the spray booth. I'm going to spray the tongue with my automotive clear coat. And for several years, I was using a brand called WIP. One thing I didn't like, the clear was fine. What I didn't like was the lid. So I just went to my local automotive paint supply store a couple months ago. About 6 months ago, and I bought a new gallon. This brand's called Advantage. It's 4 parts of clear to 1 part hardener, so that's the mixing ratio. So the brand doesn't matter. They all do the same thing. Really, for what we're doing, we're not like, these aren't elements and stuff. So I think for the gallon kit, I paid, I don't know, it was like $65 or $70, maybe a little more. But this will last me. The shelf life will run out before I use it all. So, but it's just, you know, if you buy like a quart kit, it's like $40. Well, why not spend an extra $20 on a gallon or something? You know, you spend like 1 quart. It's like half the cost of a gallon. So I'm gonna put some of this clear in my airbrush. I'm gonna keep some in the cup because we're gonna go brush the mouth with clear coat. But for the tongue, we're gonna I gotta turn on my air compressor. It's gonna be loud here. Get away from it. So you can probably hear my fan is a little out of whack. Probably going to replace that fan here in the next year, just because it's way out of balance. Okay, so I'm going to put on one kind of dry coat, not super wet, just like this, all the way around. I'm going to let this dry, or what's called flash off, for about 10 minutes, and then we'll come back and put a wet coat on. All right, so it's been about 10 minutes, and when you do these automotive paints and clear coats, you want to give enough time for the stuff to flash off. And flashing just means the solvents in the paint are escaping. So if I just keep building it up, it would not. It could possibly not cure right. It could do what's called delaminate or peel off later. So I'm going to put on a wet coat. I'll probably do like a double coat. The air pressure is a little high. I have this set for another airbrush. Right, so I'm going to do it again.
And again, I'm gonna let this dry for about 10 minutes, and I'll put on a final wet coat, and the tongue will be glossed, and then we'll go gloss the mouth. All right, last coat on the tongue. I lowered my air pressure quite a bit because I want this to come out really kind of slow. So I'm gonna lower my air pressure a little bit, and I'll kind of get it on really wet. Right now, we have to mix up some more. Hold on 1 second. May have to mix up a little more to do the mouth. Thought I had enough. I might have enough. So last coat, putting on real wet. And there we go. There's the tongue all glossed up. So that's got to sit overnight. And now we'll go and brush on this gloss coat on the mouth. Okay, once again, I'll just do a little bit of this on camera because I have to be able to pick them up and move them around. I'm taking that same gloss coat I had in the airbrush, and I'm going to use a brush to brush it on the inside of the mouth and the teeth and the gums. So I don't want to put this on super thick so I don't want it to run, but I'll probably just do this in one coat, maybe two. And the stuff levels out as it cures. Self levels. So it'll slick out as it dries. So I'm gonna get everything that I can while it's on the stand, or while it's on the base. And I'll take off the base and get everything else. And then when I get to the lip, you can do you can brush it on a little bit drier, and it'll make a nice kind of smooth transition from the wet inside of the mouth to the dry skin. See if I can do a little bit here for you. You don't want to work this too much. This typically does not activate the paint underneath it, but it is a solvent, so you don't want to work it too much because you could potentially reactivate the paint you did and start pulling it up. So basically brush it on. This is when you're using a brush, that is. So like here along the lip line, and kind of start from the inside and work my way out like this. So this should give me kind of a smooth transition from glossy to kind of the matte finish. Just like that. Because as the brush kind of comes out, it flicks a little bit, and it doesn't put on the gloss coat as thick. So it kind of makes a transition. Now this gloss coat is going to make all these colors really pop on the mouth. So it should look really nice. and like areas down here. Again, I'm just going to kind of work my way from the inside out, just using the tips of the bristles. That'll give me a smooth transition again from the gloss to the matte finish of the skin. Again, I'm going to get what I can see wise on the base, and then I'll flip them over and get all the other areas. It's been good. Oops, got a little bit where you don't want it. Try to wipe it off. So if that happens, I can always go back later. I got a little bit clear on the outside on the blue skin, black skin. I just tried to take it off with a Q-tip. If it dries later and I still see it's shiny, I'll just brush touch that with a little acrylic flat coat, and it'll take care of that. Alright, so I think you get the idea. I'm going to continue doing this until I get the mouth all done. And then the Venom will be done. The Venom part will be done. I just got to do the skulls on the base. So when I come back, we'll work on the skulls. Alrighty, on to the skulls of the base. There's a lot of them. So the first thing I need to do is base coat these. And again, I'm just going to show part of this on camera. So I think I'm going to go in, since they're already in black, I'm going to do this in thinner layers. I'm going to use this GarageKits.us natural bone as my first color to go down. And I'm not going to worry about it being 100% covered. I just want to get some other tone on there other than black. So again, I'm just going to do a little bit of this on camera because this will take a while to get these base coated. And actually this might not want to work. I'm going to have to use a different type of paint. These GarageKits colors don't like to brush on this type of surface. This is like a semi, not exactly flat. It's not glossy. It's kind of a semi. There we go. But there's surface. This is a water-based paint, so if there's any type of sheen to the surface you're putting it on, it wants to beat up. Try to break the surface tension. But this is the color I want to use. This will give me a good starting point. Just gotta be careful when I get down by the symbiote. And I will use pastels anywhere the skulls meet the symbiote, like I did on Deadpool, just so they look more grounded. If you don't do that, add a shadow, they look like they're floating on top. It looks really weird. So we'll do a lot of shading and stuff with pastels. But the first step is to get these so they're not black. So you can see here that this isn't completely opaque, which is fine. So I'm going to do this. This will probably take me a couple hours to get these base coated. Just because there's so many of them, and the paint I'm using is very thin. So again, I think you get the idea. So I'll come back when these are all base coated. Okay, so that took freaking forever to base coat those, and it's looking a little sloppy now. That's okay, because as we move on in the steps, we're going to tighten it up. So now what we're going to do is I'm going in here with a wash, and it's going to darken this way down. You're like, well, why don't you just go to this color first? Because I needed to get a bone color on there, or color some sort of bone color before I did this next step. So here's a good example of what that will look like. This little jawbone right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just taking this Starship wash and putting this on here pretty liberally. Liberally? I can't spell that. Say that. Liberally. Whatever. I'm putting a lot on. I'm just letting it do its thing. So, and I don't have to be quite as precise with this as I was with that color, the previous color. So it's going to do two things. This is going to stain it darker. It's going to kind of even the tone out a little bit. It's going to get down in all those little cracks and everything, so that when I go do my dry brushing, those come out. So I don't like just white skulls. I think it looks a little weird. And I don't care if this kind of gets down on the base a little bit. It's a nice dark color. So this step will go pretty quick, because I can be kind of sloppy with it. It's an enamel wash, so I'll have to let it dry a little bit longer before I seal it. But this is what's going to allow us to dry brush these and bring out the details in the skulls. Hopefully I can do one round of dry brushing and then pigments, and we'll see what it looks like. This stuff works best if you just kind of put it on and let it run where it wants to go. You can see I only put one coat of that bone paint on here, so you can actually see the base color through it a little bit. That's okay, because by the time we're done, you're not going to notice that. That Garage Kids color paint is really thin, so so I use it more like a wash or a stain than I did a paint on that first step. So I'm going to do this to all the skulls. I'll let it dry, and then I'll seal the base again, and then we'll do some dry brushing to bring the details out. It's a little too much, so if I put too much on, I can dab my brush and then go back and pick it up with my brush. The brush kind of soak it up. Alright, so I'm going to do this, and then I'll come back. Alrighty, so I finished doing the wash. I let that dry for about an hour. And I went and sealed it again, and this is where we are. And it looks pretty good. I could actually just leave them like this, but I want to bring out some of the details. The tongue's just about dry. I mean, it's just dry to the touch, but it's not cured. Like, I can stick my nail in it. But I could probably put this on the statue tonight and see what it looks like by the time I'm done with everything. So I'm going to just dry brush some color on here. I don't want to go too bright, so I'm going to take some of this Elfic Flesh. Basically, I'm kind of going to mix up my base color I had before. Not the base, but what I had on the nails. A little bit of this gray. And I'm going to put a little bit of brown. There's a heavy brown. Just to warm it up a little bit. I got this grayish, warm tone going on here. Right there. May look a little bright in camera. Okay. I'm going to dry brush this. I have to brighten this up a little bit. Actually, this might just be right. Not sure if you can see that. Let me brighten this up just a hair. Yeah, I think I got a little more Elfic Flesh to it. And kind of scrub it on. It'll bring out all the details of the skulls. Some of these skulls are a little darker than others, so it's kind of nice. They're all a little different tonality. This step should go fairly quick because I don't want to do a whole lot of dry brushing on this. I just want to do a little bit. I may do one more step up from this and just hit the really high spots with Elfic Flesh by itself. We'll see. Kind of liking what I got going on here. I think this fits this piece pretty well. That skull looks really good right there. Oops. Brighten my exposure just a little bit on the camera. Trying to stay away from the symbiote on the base. If I get anything on there, I can just wipe it off with a Q-tip, but it's easier just not to get anything on there to begin with. And then I'm happy with these. I'll seal them, and then I'll do the pastel work around the edges where they meet the base, and maybe some more of the shadows of the skulls and stuff, and then it should be done. All right, so we're gonna do this. Actually, I'm gonna show you what it looks like if I go back, if I do one more level up and I just do the elfic flesh by itself. So let me show you a little bit of that, because I'll probably go ahead and do that. Just on the really high spots. So if I just take that color by itself, it's a warm white, really warm white. I just come in here and just real lightly hit the tops. Just gives it one more little subtle highlight. Just like that. So I'm going to do that on the rest of these guys, and we'll come back and do the pastel work. All right, so finished all that, sealed it, and last step is we're going to go with some of this rocket exhaust. Sorry about the background noise, my kids are working in the kitchen. Rocket exhaust pigments, and I'm going to go in kind of around the base of the skulls, some of the shadow areas, and just kind of tie everything together. So again, I'm pretty heavy-handed with these guys. Just go in there, bring up the sides a little bit. Blow off the excess. Just like this. Anywhere the skull meets the base, I'm gonna add this to help just kind of anchor it, and even some in the skulls a little bit. Bring out some of the shadows a little bit more. If you notice this one here, where I have the pigments around it, and the other ones look like they're kind of floating. Because they're not like grounded. So I'm going to go ahead and do this to the rest of them, seal it, and I think he's done. So when I come back, we'll have him on the base and see what it looks like. Okay, so he's done, and he looks freaking awesome. Oh, I see one brush touch-up. I missed right there. Dang it. So I got one more little brush touch-up I just saw. So I think the clear coat's dry enough. I can put the tongue in. Just throw it in there, see how we look. Boom. So this is my very first Venom, and I think he looks pretty badass. Adjust my exposure a little bit. I'm super happy. Challenging piece, just because of the size and having to deal with how heavy and big he is. But well, what worked up. I see another brush touch-up. So as I go around, I see little brush touch-ups. So I'll have to go back and fix those. Real simple ones, like a little bit of black down the foot. But yeah, he looks good. So today was a long day. I touched up all the trim. Basically touched up the trim and did the skulls on the base and the fingernails. So it's a long day. The teeth and the gum line took me all day Monday to do. Teeth take me a long time, especially when it has all this kind of fading effects going on it, because I always try to do it with acrylics and it never works out. I should just go straight to oils. It's like they're so much easier to work with blending and stuff. You just have to wait for them to dry a little bit longer. Yeah, everything looks really, really sharp. I know my client's gonna love this because all the pictures I sent him, he's like just gaga over it. Love the way the skulls turned out on the base. So they're dirty and they're grimy. They look really good. A lot of shading, a lot of detail in those, so we brought all that out. The fingernails turned out really nice. Digging those. And then, of course, the portrait, which I think just looks really awesome. Love the portrait. We're super happy with that. What was the most challenging part on this piece? Probably, again, the building part was pretty straightforward. Nothing I haven't done before. It was like the Mad X Hulk, but you have to put it all together before you paint it. That's the hardest part. So yeah, that's probably the most challenging part, is having to paint it as is one piece. If I did anything different on this build, so if I do another one for another client, what I think I'll do differently is before I attach the head and do the A's on the head, I'll paint the mouth. Because that was the hardest area to paint with it all together, because it's like getting up underneath behind the teeth, and it's not perfect because you just can't get a paintbrush up underneath there, underneath the whole, well, the whole statue. So it looks, I mean, it looks good. From the angles you'll see it, it looks fine. Is it perfect up underneath the backside of those teeth? No, it's not, just because it's like physically impossible to get in there and paint it while dealing with this whole statue. So that's the one thing I would do different. I would do all the A's and putty work except for the head. I'd paint the mouth first, then put that on, and do the A's work, and then mask off the mouth. So yeah, that's probably the only thing I would do differently. As far as technique wise, the blue on him looks really good. It's nice and dark. I mean, he looks black with blue highlights. The emblems, the most time consuming part was probably the teeth and just going back and touching up all the trim on the white. That took a good portion of today to do that. The nice thing about the sculpt is that there's actually like a channel sculpted in between the white and the black. So it made it kind of easy to just take a real fine brush and put it down that channel with paint. But there's a lot to do in going back and cleaning up any little spots. Again, this, it's not, my work is not perfect by any means, but there's little nitpicky things here and there that is like, oh, I see that, I see this, but unless you're me, you're not going to really notice them. So, because as a builder painter, you become so part of whatever it is you're working on, every little square centimeter, square inch of that project. So, but this is, my client's going to love this. I think he's going to be super thrilled. So, that's the end of this video. I'm not sure how long it is. I have to put it together. I'm not even sure what's on this video. It could be very long. But thanks for watching this build. And the next project I have is a thing. And I don't know if I'll do videos on it, since I did a whole video series on this. Again, it's just time consuming to do the videos, even though I don't do any really editing. It's just uploading the videos and stuff. So it takes a good amount of time. I don't know how these guys who do full on editing and production, I don't know how they have a life. But Mr. X, he's cranking out videos like crazy. He must not sleep at all. But here he is, spawning pool Venom, about 1/3 scale, all done. And he looks awesome. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys next time. Bye.